Hey, going live. Going live for the first time in a while. Oh, hello. Center. You're seeing the pocket clothes in the background. I'm still at my home, Hummingbird Hub, aka just like Kayla's house. I have Airbnb guests, rooms renting out on Airbnb. We do events here, like pop-up brunches. We're about to have a movie screening tonight, have some friends over, have the kitchen open. What else? Just a general community spot, you know, if the door's open, people will stop in. They'll stop in for like a cacao or a tea or something like that. My name is Kayla. I am essentially an entrepreneur. I love creating services and products to give people, especially when there is a need. Hello to everyone tuning in. And I've been going super inward starting on the 21st, as I'm sure most of you were tuned into. There's like a huge cosmic alignment. There was the solstice. We have the full moon energy going on right now, and just overall a huge time for manifestation, both individually and collectively, after such a crazy year. So I have been looking at Shadow Kayla. That's how I kind of started off the portal, looking at my shadow self, prompted by feedback given to me from other people about myself, you know. So it's very difficult to look at, but I made it fun. Like, it's weird to say that it was fun, but I related to the shadow work by looking at my shadow self not as like a harsh critic that I can easily fall into perception wise, but looking at my shadow from like it's like a detective or something like that, like imagining like I'm playing a game, this is the simulation, this is my avatar, this is my character, and like I, the detective, I'm looking at this character from like a 360 point of view. Like, okay, they like to go on walks, they like to go swimming, but like what is the shadow side of this being, of this entity? How does it manifest? And do we want to keep it going how it's been going, or do we want to do something different? So literally the morning of the 21st, rose, the sun comes in really interesting where I live. Like, I have my yoga mat sitting out and it's facing east. The sun rises over the lake and I just greet the sun if I'm up early enough. So it was a really beautiful night, greeting the sun and then greeting the shadow. But yeah, just approaching it for the, I don't know, the umpteenth time I'm looking at my shadow. And yeah, it's hard to put into words, but yeah, it felt like a fun game, and that's how I could inspire and motivate myself to keep looking at it, because if I wasn't doing that, I would either avoid the work or it would become so much like self-criticism that I wouldn't actually be, I feel like I would be doing not more harm than good, but going about a task in a way that just used more energy than what needed to be. So I like treated her like a character, you know, not an evil character, but maybe not the most enlightened character, like enlightened, like could be lighter, a heavier character, a denser character. So I'm like creating this denser character on 2D piece of paper so that I could relate to the actual character in the 3D, 4D, 5D. So that was really interesting. I'm interested in other people's processes for doing shadow work. I feel like it's a buzzy word, you know what I mean? But it's like, what does shadow work really mean? What does shadow work really mean to you, to me, to anyone? Like, what concrete action steps, what tasks, what projects, what exercises really lets you get to know your shadow, especially beyond, you know, doing some bad, terrible thing that's gonna bring in so much shame to where you'll resist looking at your shadow, you know? So that's just what I've been playing with. That was like the morning of the 21st, and I swear when the sun rose on the 21st in my little corner of the universe, it opened up this portal to not just shadow work, but lots of death and loss. Like, I know personal family members that are going through breakups, loss, and stuff like that. I know a person in our community down here at the lake passed away completely unexpectedly, and just one thing after the other, including my own shadow work, it was just like death, loss, death, loss, death, loss, death, loss, all of this stuff coming up, to where by the fifth or sixth thing, I was just like, okay, zooming out, seeing the pattern here, it's just time for shadow work, death, and loss. Like, this is always it's always time for that, especially this time of the year. Like, sort your shit before taking it into the new year. And then even like cosmically, on like a personal level, on like a annual level, and on like a archetypal aeon level, it is so time to do this work. And again, I'm like, okay, how do we do this work beyond just knowing we need to do the work and talking about it? So I've been like kind of resisting it, but I got this book, The Art of Dying. As you may or may not know, my grandfather passed away in October, and that was death kind of landing in my world. I've always been fascinated by the mysteries of death. However, people close to me have not passed away that often yet, and I declared at the beginning of this year, I would like to understand more about death, and sure enough, this year brought it for, I'm sure, a lot of people. So when I was book shopping a few weeks ago, The Art of Dying comes up, and I'm just like, okay, this book is in my life now, and I'm just kind of, I guess I want, long term, I want to be a death doula. I want to be able to help people process and grieve and move on from death on an emotional level, but also like on a intellectual level, as in, if someone passes away, how to handle their affairs in a way that is in alignment with that person's values, with what the family needs, what they're going through. I'm just like, the more I open Pandora's box of death, the more facets and intricacies and nuances come out. And although there is real pain and suffering and grief to be felt, I am continually in awe and gratitude of these mysteries of life, and of course death. Like, that feeling of, it's like everything gets more surreal, but at the same time, it's as if things go into like high definition. Like, the connections, the resonance of the connections intensifies. What you smell intensifies, what you hear can intensify. So I truly see death as one of my biggest teachers, and an experience to go into an altered state of consciousness, for better or worse, however you want to relate to it. All I know is I want to be able to talk about death, think about death, be with death, celebrate death, without this original programming that I've had, which was essentially just like cry and be sad and like give money to a funeral home and like don't think about it anymore. Let me see. My mom would love this conversation right now. She also talked about the idea of, let's see. Come on. My mom would love this conversation right now. She also talked about the idea of death in the past, and she wrote a book about grief after my dad passed in 2007. Yeah, it's like, in my experience, it's so taboo to even talk about. It's as if like to talk about death or to talk about suicide is going to make it happen, and I just do not believe that at all. Of course, there's like context, there's a time and a place that are like more suited to talk about certain things, but hey, like, this is my platform, and this is what I've like literally been going through recently, and I know so many other people have gone through it, will go through it, and guess I'm just getting at, we can be way more conscious with our relationship with death. Some cultures, like, that's what they spent their whole life even talking about and thinking about and preparing for, and that's just not the experience I got growing up. So I am on a journey exploring the mysteries of death, even if it's like weird and bizarre to think about. I don't think it has to be morbid or depressing. Again, there's that piece there, but I'm like, I want to see what's really there, you know what I mean? To the point where, can we consciously pick when we are going to die? Can we remember when we chose to die? Can we remember when we'll be born again? Can we overall just be more conscious in the in-between spaces of the birth, death cycle? And again, like, these are just questions. I'm saying this is what I've been through, this is what I'm thinking, who else has been where, and can we compare notes? Definitely in resonance. Yay, I'm glad it's in resonance. Yeah, with each experience, with each brush with death, which has been minimal in my life, I'm getting more confident in talking about it, more inspired to talk about it and just see what else is out there as far as resources to where we as humans can live not just truck going by, where we as humans can live not just empowered lives, but have empowered death. So it's like, okay, you pass away. How I think about my death is like, okay, I pass away, I've established systems on earth that can run without me there. Say, I've written books, or I've launched a meditation CD, and people can not only like keep buying that after I'm gone and the money can go to my family, but people can also like get warm fuzzies from connecting with the content that I've put out there while I've been alive. So it's like I pass on, people are like, yeah, I can still engage with her content, and then my affairs are in order, like my body gets like wrapped in herbal, oily, incensey, like kind of mummified Egyptian vibes, but my body's like wrapped and it smells so good. My skin's just like absorbing it, and I want put, as of now, subject to change, I want put wrapped in that cloth of like herbs and oils and silks, put directly into the earth, and then I just go back to earth and stuff gets. Ethnogens help me connect with death from a safe distance. Yeah, I agree. Ethnogens have shown me kind of like beyond the veil, or what can happen after I die. I'm also curious, like, does the same thing happen to everyone when they die, or just like in life, people have different paths and there are different afterlife, for the sake of English to communicate this, like, are there different afterlives that people go to depending on their genetics, depending on their choices? I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like what someone would want, cremation, burial, whatever, could be, that same thing could apply in the afterlife. Or is it like, hey, you all go through the same portal, you all get, you know, like, these are things I think about. But yeah, I specifically had a super powerful experience my first time doing DMT, where I didn't feel like I had died, but I felt like I was in the afterlife. And I have a video on my YouTube channel describing this experience because it was so influential in how I perceived life and death. But basically, my heart, it was like the whole weighing your heart against a feather, and there was a being there as if guarding a door, and the being was like, come on, come in, like, come to the party, come on. And I was like, no, I was being a total martyr, like, I wouldn't let myself cross over because I just kept thinking of all the shitty things I'd done as a human. And the being was just like so confused. It was just kind of like, you wouldn't be here if you weren't worthy of being here, so like, come on. It's like, you buy a plane ticket, you go all the way to the airport, you pack your bags, and then like right before you get on the plane, you're like, I couldn't possibly get on this plane. And everyone's just like, you literally just have to get on, like, you've done everything, just get on the plane. And that's how it felt. And eventually I like chose to like lighten my heart, literally that's how it felt, like lighten my heart, cross over, and I was just in this swirly bliss party type of place with like pink light, and I felt like my spiritual mother was there, my spiritual father was there, my spiritual brother was there, and we were just like in our fourness, like spiritual, etheric household of just such lovely times and vibes. And then finally, something was like, hey, it's time to go back now. Like, it's time to go back to your body, the physical plane, blah, blah, blah. Like, you've not died. You have, like, work to do still. And I remember feeling, like, so sad, at the same time determined and focused. I was like, yes, I do have work to go do still. I want to be a brave little volunteer, and I'm going to go back to my body, but I will never forget how awesome this was. So for me, I'm like, will that happen? Is that what's going to happen when I die? I consent to that happening when I die. That was a cool place to be. But does that happen for everyone? So I can go down lots of different rabbit holes about death, and I will keep talking about it as I feel called to be a voice for this part of life. But yeah, I'm overall just reflecting on how my past week has been, what's been going on, and yes, death, loss, breakups, and then from the ashes, lots of creation, like lots of beautiful people entering my life, cool new projects that are going on, like genuine deep excitement for this next year and just the overall future, despite all the hardships, all the fuckery going on. Like so excited, given that I stay focused and determined, and I do see how much like the whole process of creation serves my coping with the darker times, or the times I feel not as in control of what's going on. It's like, I can conceive of these elements that I do have control over, and I will feed that. So even making this live stream, doing the live streams that I put up on Instagram, I'll put up on YouTube, that's part of it. I've also put out podcast episodes that I've been meaning to for like a long time, I was like talking about it, had started interviewing people for my podcast, had the interviews all saved on my computer, and wasn't doing anything with it. Like, alright. So yeah, I finally did something with that. I have like podcasts called like Simply Lucid Podcast on Spotify out now. So yeah, that's the gist of what I've been going through. As like the first time putting it into words after just like feeling it and processing it. But yeah, I'm just curious who else is in resonance as far as like shadow work, grief, death, loss, and then how much, like, what energy is coming out on the other side of that. Speaking of new projects, I saw on one of your feed posts that you were looking to connect with a VA in the near future. I'm definitely interested. I'm currently providing virtual support. Yeah, so basically I have a bunch of content that I've made over the past few years, and what I see a potential that I'm not personally filling. That potential is me sending out content, bits of content that I've created over the years to my email list, because like even without all the deplatforming and canceling and all of that going on, having an email list, having people that are like, hey, I resonate with what you're doing and I want to stay tuned in to your content, what you're creating, even if it's not on Instagram or YouTube or anything. I see how I can be serving in that way. I also see that if I outsourced that task, it could be like, it could be so efficient, as in like, here's the content, here's the email list, automate it, send out one a week. Cool. So yeah, it's surreal to even be on that level of like, I can outsource this or I can outsource that. So I just feel like if I can manage to do it and it's a win-win for both parties, that frees up my time to just make more content and be studying and learning more about, death, how to cope, all of that, while someone else can cultivate their, being an assistant, being a virtual assistant. But yeah, that's specifically what I'm interested in working with someone on. Yeah, to follow up with me privately would be awesome. Yeah, but other than that, I feel like I'm going to get off of here in the physical plane. Like I said, I've been managing like a 7-bedroom guest house down here in Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, where I've been living for the past year. So that's been an interesting journey. The first month was me really being inside of my shell, figuring out like where am I at now, what's going on, and then this past month of December has been experimenting with having events in the space, and now we're getting more guests in the space. We're going to be, having, I don't know about more events, but like getting better at having the events that we do have. And yeah, I wrote down all that I had done, or like a lot of what I had done in the past 2 years, especially with like working for myself, online business, entrepreneurship, because I just joined this coaching program, and they're like, introduce yourself, and I'm like, oh, I'm Kayla. I created Simply Lucid like 2 years ago, and since then I've done blah 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 blah, and I listed like so many things, and I'm just like, oh my god, like objectively I was like, how are you doing all of that? I don't know how you're doing all of that, but subjectively I'm like, I wish to do more. So I'm like checking myself. I don't wish to do more. I wish to build systems and collaborate with people to where I can maximize the energy I do put out. Like, I'm not out here trying to work 24/7, trying to like hustle 24/7, trying to get burnt out. No, if anything, I'm wanting to work less, make more money, and have a greater impact through developing strategic partnerships, developing systems that just maximize what's going on. So yeah, thanks for everyone who is connecting, giving their feedback, resonating. I will put this on YouTube, and you can leave your comments over there or down here. But yeah, just wondering what resonated, how your shift is going, and what you're wanting to manifest in this next year. But overall, at the end of the day, I think it's like, if we're resonating, like, we need not worry too much. We're probably doing pretty good in life, and when we die, we'll probably like be in a place that's even better than this. Not to say there won't be difficult parts, but overall, like, it's gonna be okay, and we get the opportunity to like perceive and experience and bless others with our time, our thoughts, our being, our words. And yeah, I guess just overarching theme is gratitude. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening with whatever you're doing. Again, Art of Dying is what I just picked up, and yeah, we'll see about all this. All right, peace. I will hear from you later.